Good morning, Chris from Channel X here, and delighted to be with James Rigg, CEO of Trojan Electronics, to talk all things refurbished today. So, welcome, James. Who are you, and tell us a bit about Trojan Electronics.
Morning, Chris, and thank you for inviting me along today. So Trojan Electronics specialise in providing circular solutions for manufacturers and retailers. Primarily in electronics, we also do some solutions that are non-electronics, but e-waste and e-waste reduction is what we focus on. So we work with the people like, an example would be Melita, the coffee machine, so the bean to cup coffee machine. So to take their products in that have been returned, to clean them, repair them, replace the parts that need to be replaced, and then to return them to the manufacturer to resell through their own direct consumer channels, or to sell them through marketplaces such as eBay, primarily. So our entire approach is to reduce the amount of product going to e-waste, going to landfill, and to put it back into the channel to be reused again by consumers.
And that's really big nowadays. So I know consumers are looking at sustainability from everything. I mean, we've only got to look what's happening in Greece and Southern Europe at the moment with the weather to be a little bit concerned, I would say. But what do you see from consumers on the electronic side? And have consumers grasped the difference between what a used product is and what a refurbished product is? Because I know there's a real big difference, but I think those labels kind of get interchanged incorrectly a little bit.
Okay, so that's a really good question. I don't think the consumers know the difference between what is used and what is refurbished, but they know the difference between what is new and what is second time around. And I think in the consumer mindset, is the second time around is regardless of whether it's being used or refurbished. So some examples for that. So we undertook a survey where we surveyed around 300, where we had 300 replies to our survey of consumers' attitudes towards buying refurbished. And we call refurbished that entire category of it's not brand new category, rather than split it into used and refurbished. And the responses from people we spoke to was quite high, actually. Because of mobile phones, most people have already bought a product that's not new and had a good success with it. So, for example, when we survey people, 71% of people, almost 3/4 of people said when they're buying new, they look at the environmental impact of the product they're buying. But more importantly, 25% of people we surveyed have already bought a refurbished electrical item in the last 12 months. Some mobile phones started that. Yeah, but since then, white goods and small appliances such as hair straighteners, and so on. So there is a move towards buying second time around product, refurbished product, and consumers understand that. But what they want is quality. They want two things, actually. They want to buy a quality product rather than it being new or used. It's about quality. And they want to understand that it's got some sort of guarantee or warranty with it. So ideally, what they want to see is manufacturers listing new product and refurb product side by side and being proud of the fact that they are doing something sustainable. But what they certainly want to see is quality first and then price second. So they're looking for that quality tick when they buy something that's not new.
And that's really interesting. You say they want the choice of the new and the freshly back into the market. Let's call it used, refurbished, to give them that choice. And what do you hear from brands though? Because obviously, brands' major concern has got to be to sell new product, because if they've already made it and it's gone into the market, they've got their profit. Surely they get profit by putting another product into the market. Can they make money out of refurbished?
Okay, so you raise, I think, probably one of the biggest questions right now that manufacturers, especially, but manufacturers and retailers are battling with internally. So you have a new sales channel stream, which is the sales directors and commercial directors, and new product being produced, and everything is geared towards a new sales stream. And the price ticket is high, it's brand new product, premium product. And the massive fear for many retailers right now and manufacturers is that product that's refurbished that will sell for around maybe 70% of the new product, more than that if it's as new, maybe a bit less than that if it's slightly grade A, grade B or C. So the absolute fear, and we know this from speaking to retailers, their absolute fear for some of them is that this will substitute. Somebody will not spend £99, they will spend £79, and what they're doing is not selling a new product. Yeah, they're simply reducing their value proposition on their brand. So that's the massive fear. And if we look at products like, if you look at maybe Smeg and Neff and that very premium Samsung, the very premium range of appliances, the fear that people will choose the same product they would have bought at a lower price is a genuine fear. But the reality is, from our research and our surveys, is that what we're finding is that people who want to buy the brand new premium product will still buy the brand new premium product. That customer who's prepared to spend £600, £700 on a brand new in a box shiny product will still buy that product. But what we are seeing in the substitution is that the customer that would have bought a lesser brand product, so something maybe around £300 or £400, so Hotpoint, Beko, there's a whole range of products there that I can refer to. What we are seeing is that customer is trading up in brand to a premium product that is slightly more than the mid-range product they would have bought. So this is an entirely new sales channel for the brand.
This is actually really interesting, really interesting, because it's kind of, who'd have thought that the replaced into the market refurb would be an aspirational purchase rather than a cost-saving purchase. It's introducing people to a brand they perhaps couldn't otherwise afford.
And that's exactly what it is. And on that premium brand, absolutely, that's somebody that can never afford to buy that product. Yeah, and maybe it's got a small scratch on the side of it. Maybe it's got a small scratch on the front, but it's so minor that a fridge magnet or a picture of the child, and it's gone. You know, like there's ways to have premium and to have used premium, and not to be and not to look like it's been used before.
And I've got to be honest, if it's like a dishwasher or a fridge or a washing machine, if it scratches on the top, the sides, or the back, once it's in my kitchen, I'm never going to see that again. I only really care about the front, and I'll probably scratch that sooner or later anyway myself.
Completely. And even with things like so you look at brands like, so some brands have really embraced it. So we were saying before, does refurb take away from new products? And the answer is no, it doesn't take away from new product. Does refurb enhance your proposition for new product? And the answer for that is yes. So an example would be Hotel Chocolat. So they're the premium chocolate brand where they have shops on the high street, and they have these beautiful bronze velvetizers that make the chocolate. You may have seen them. You probably know someone who's got one.
Yeah.
They're a big seller last year.
It's second only to the coffee machine, I think.
Yeah. Now on those, we take those in. They arrive as faulty or unwanted returns from Hotel Chocolat. They're very dirty inside. They have chocolate and dairy. They've been used, and we clean them up as new, so much as new that they even now sell them in their stores alongside their brand new product. So a brand new product here, nearly as new, whatever they call it in store, product side by side. Yeah, it's such a good product that it enhanced their brand, and they're proud to do so. And it's not a substitution. Yeah, it's somebody. So it's not substituting from new. It's somebody that couldn't have afforded to spend £149, but they will spend £79. And similarly, actually, I mentioned earlier, Melita, the bean to cup people, which again is a premium product. Again, they now sell the refurbished product or as new, nearly as new product on their own D2C website alongside their new product. So again, they've realized that it enhances their brand, doesn't take away. Yeah, but these people are pioneers. Yeah, these are the pioneer brands who are being upfront and honest about their circularity approach to what they're doing. Yeah, many of the brands are petrified of the fear that the new sales will take from their refurb sales will take from new. Yeah, which is not the case.
So can you talk to me about two things: the scale of the problem? I mean, how many products come through Trojan Electronics, and also where are the products coming from? Are these literally faulty returns or unwanted e-com deliveries that have been returned that are coming to you, or that have gone back to the retailer, or is the product getting as far as going back to the manufacturer? Where is the product coming from, and just how many of these products are out there?
Okay, So all those places is the answer to that. So to put it into pound note terms, so just looking at brand new products sold each year in the UK. So in the UK, there's some 24 billion pounds of electrical items sold each year. And the return rate on electronics is between 2 and 4%, higher on some, less on others. So even just on those big numbers, there's £1 billion there of product being returned in the UK in the first year. Yeah, and some of the bigger items will get refurbished or graded. Some of the smaller items will go straight to landfill. So there's a range of products there. So when you look at who ships to us, so the major retailers return direct to us. Some of those major retailers return to the manufacturers who return it to us, and we have some arrangements where the consumers return to us directly, depending on the client. So we have 3 streams into us where we work with manufacturers and retailers.
And out of that kind of £1 billion of product that's being returned, can you give us some idea of how much of it can be remanufactured and put back into the stream, as opposed to how much is waste? I'm guessing sometimes you might cannibalize 2 products to make 1 good product, or you might be, if it's a broken laptop, you might just be putting a new graphics chip in and the rest of the laptop's okay. But how much of this can actually be recovered?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good question. So when you look at things like laptops and phones, they have an incredibly high recovery because all the main, unless the motherboard's gone, most of the spare parts are pretty easy to access. So laptops and phones have really high recovery. When you're looking at white goods, the recovery on those is probably around 90% of them go back into a sellable state.
So still pretty high.
Really high. As you go down the price point on white goods, then it gets slightly less so. So if it's a very cheap product at £149 retail, by the time you fix those, then actually the economies of scale don't work at that price point. But then you harvest the parts and use them for the next product that comes in that has a simple repair. Yeah, the display is broken, the foot's dropped off. Yeah, there's some very simple repairs that you can do on even low value items. But then when you go back then down a level to small items, so small items are very easy to handle. So hair straighteners or little hoovers and blenders, yeah, they're easy to handle. On those, once again, the recovery is very high. So you look at something like some of the premium brand kitchen appliances, blenders, and so on. You're looking 90 to 95% recovery on those items using spare parts.
So this is a massive opportunity. How many brands and retailers are seriously focused on this at the moment, and how many of them just take their returns and put them on a pallet and sell them as a job lot and make it someone else's problem, as opposed to working with someone like Trojan and actually putting the goods back into service, back into, and often, as we've said, the aspirational consumers' hands that can't afford the new product? How many are doing that, and how many are just making it someone else's problem?
Okay, so we're working closely with around 20 of the UK's retailers and manufacturers who we process their goods for them. But there are some very, very, very major high street brands out there that we're also talking to that currently have no solution in place for refurb and repair. So they all do basic triage. Yeah, it arrives at their DC, it looks like new, it goes over there. It looks like not new, it goes on that pile of something that either goes to landfill or to jobber or to auction. And the risk of the put it left and put it over here somewhere pile is that there's no, after that point, there's no brand protection for that product. It will go out as a refurb, it will go out as a jobber. It could be sold using unofficial parts, it could be sold unsafe, but the manufacturer's brand or the retailer's brand, if it's OEM, is still on that product. So for the purposes of getting 10p in the pound, if they're lucky, back for that, they're wide open then on the onward risk, and also wide open on warranty, because that product, which has been junked once, will go back onto a marketplace, back to someone's home, it'll go faulty, and they call the manufacturer, and then they replace it again anyway. So they lose control of it. It's not the best option to put it into a quick exit, which is jobber.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I've got to be honest, I buy products on places like marketplaces all of the time, and I know the marketplace will cover me and give me money back if it need
Yeah.
be. So I've got warranty with the marketplace effectively. I'm not that worried. And if anything does go wrong, I will ring up. And there's also the danger that, I guess, the disgruntled customer, that if they've clocked the serial number and resold it, that when I ring up for the warranty, they just say, sorry, it's secondhand, we're not going to cover it.
Yeah, and that's very true. So with some clients, we stick with the phone number on the back and put on a phone number which is us. So it looks like a manufacturer warranty. It is a manufacturer warranty. It's part of the refurb process, but it's our call centers that deal with it and our field engineers that would go out to repair it if it's going to be a field one. An example would be in there, we're doing work with Kemble DeLonghi on their big range cookers. And again, we repair them. They go out into the field as a refurb product. The warranty call will come to us. So that one is one warranty call that won't go back into their call centers.
So for the brands that are watching this today, that don't work with you at the moment, what can they expect when they ring you up and say, "Hey James, I've got a problem. I've seen the video. How can you help me?" Both from a logistics point of view, maybe it's a department store or an electric store, and I'm sure you're speaking to most of them already, but maybe the person watching this hasn't spoken to you personally. But what can they expect both from a logistics side and from a financial side? I honestly don't know. Do you just take their product and say, okay, we'll take the problem off you, but you're not getting any money, we'll sort it for you? Do they retain some value of the product, or do they retain the product and they pay you a fee for your services? How does the industry work?
Okay, so it's essential that the manufacturer or the retailer gets value from the product. And it's essential that they get a better proposition from the product. So they get a circular solution and a traceable solution, but they also want to get more than what they get for jobber. So there has to be a commercial motivator here, as well as the ESG and sustainability motivator. And some retailers are very pro sustainability. Some manufacturers, actually, pro sustainability. So what they want to get back is roughly what they would have got from jobber, but with a sustainable, evidenced process. For other ones who want slightly more than that. So what we do is we take the stock in on consignment, we repair, refurbish, harvest from other items, products to make as many as possible work. We have an internal grading system which tracks the product from goods in with photographs through each stage of repair, through testing, and then through sales. So we can show an audit trail for every item we've had and who bought it and the onward return rate, if anything, and if there's a return rate, who processed it. So we share all this information. And with one major domestic appliance manufacturer, we shared some recurring patterns on tumble dryers, where they then went away and re-engineered their production to take out this recurring fault we were getting. It was damage caused by impact because of where they had one of the wheels for turning the drum. So we feed back to them information, not just processed products. And then we sell the goods and we take a share of the selling price. So there's two fees. There's the physical repair fee, then a selling fee, and the rest of it is the retailers or manufacturers. And in all our cases so far, they get back much more money than they would have done through a jobber route. But they have a true circular solution, something they can put on their website. It's an ESG initiative that they can take as a brand benefit as well.
And then we know there's new legislation coming in where manufacturers are effectively going to be forced to take back end-of-life product. What's going to happen there? Is the product going to be stripped for parts, or is it mainly going to be sort of, okay, they'll just pay the cost of landfill? How's the industry going to handle that when I buy a new washing machine and I've got the right to give my old one back?
Yeah, that's a good question.
It may not have a solution yet, but I think it's interesting.
But there is a solution almost. So consumers are very good at reusing their products. So at the end of life of my tumble dryer or washing machine, it still works, but it's a bit old. That will go on to another member of the family or to a neighbor or to somebody that needs. So consumers themselves are quite good at keeping product going to its very last legs, till it's beyond anything. And at that point, probably it's going to go to landfill at that point, but be broken down into component parts. So we break things down into component parts for metals and plastics to make sure we get the maximum recovery from what's left of a product that can't be sold, even down to where it is things like controllers and plastic items, so on. We will smash them and separate the plastics to the circuit board, to the wire, to the plug. So whatever the end of the life of that product is then broken down into its major components to go off to the best recycling plants, rather than just be one item in the ground. So I think that's the best you can do at a certain point in time.
Yeah. So I find this really interesting. Just run me past those numbers again. I think you said something like sort of 95% for sort of the mobile phone laptop market and 90% for white goods. Just run me past those numbers, because these are really good recovery rates.
Yeah. So recovery rate. So the only items that are not easy to repair. So if you look at wire goods, if it's been dropped on its corner and the chassis is completely caved in, yeah, that's not going to be repairable. But in most cases, that's not the problem with the product. Yeah, that does happen. But in most cases, it is a genuine fault. It was something that happened in the customer's home. And they come back in, and using the error codes and using our testing software, we identify the components and we change the components, put it back onto another soak test, test the product, then put it back into sellable. So most products are fixable. Where it gets slightly trickier is products like some of the premium side-by-side products, for example. The replacement doors are incredibly expensive. So a replacement stainless steel door on a premium brand is very expensive. So in those cases, then you would wait and harvest, and you'd make the best from others. When you look at recovery, you recover to 90%, but maybe a third of those are grade A, a third are grade B, and a third are grade C. So the pound note recovery isn't going to be 90%. The pound note recovery will be very high in the grade A's, but low on the grade C's. But the physical recovery is often high. The other times where physical recovery is lower than that is if you look at products that are sub maybe 30, 40 pounds, where there's not really a repair option that's going to make any sense at the price point.
Yeah.
Then at that point, you're testing visual inspections, and at that point, your recovery rate will be based on just how robust that product was when it was made.
I think that how robust was the product when it was made, and learning lessons from refurbishing on how you can actually improve the original quality of the product back at the manufacturing plant. That in itself, I think, is a fantastic lesson.
Well, an example that would be we do work with a major electrical fire manufacturer who sells through the very large UK retailers that you'd expect. And on the returns for those, there is some, again, inherent issues that we see around damage to cosmetic components. They're just not designed for that. So again, working with manufacturers to say, okay, we can recover the item, but this cosmetic part here will always be a spare part replacement. Yeah, but what can we do maybe to package it in a better form? What can we do to do something different in how it's transported, so it doesn't take all the impact of the hits when that van goes over the road, over the bumps on the way to someone's house?
James, I want to thank you for your time today. But finally, just before we go, one other question: if there was one other type of electronics that you could get coming into to your facility in Swansea, what type of product is the next one? We've talked about phones, white goods, chocolate makers, Hoovers. What's the next type of product that you think that should be coming through and going through this recovery and recycle?
Yeah, so I think the premium brands and the more expensive products are starting to come around to this. I think we're making progress there, and we're trying to change the narrative so manufacturers are more aware of it. I think where there's still a very big gap is somewhere in that sub £90 retail product, and that's where retailers and manufacturers, I think, have an issue, because the cost to make those goods probably is quite low. It's probably less than $10 to make those goods. It's cheaper for them to bin them to landfill, literally to landfill them, than it is to repair and resell them or refurb them. And I think that in that price point is a huge category, and it can be repaired and it can be refurbed and resold. And I think manufacturers, need to be more responsible in that category, which is it may be cheaper to spend $10 on a new one, but for £10 you can repair this one and resell it. From a circular perspective, that's what they should do. Yeah, and this whole idea of bringing more raw resources, bringing more product from overseas, bringing more carbon and stuff to ship it around the world. Yeah, that mindset I think needs to change. It may not be cheaper to refurb it, all about a couple of pounds, but it's absolutely what they should do next.
So that's really interesting. But hopefully the people that are looking for those lower end products will be able to get a more aspirational refurbished product instead, and maybe we'll start to see the really cheap bottom end products disappearing from the market.
Yep.
But
perfect.
James, I want to thank you so much for your time today. It's been absolutely fascinating, and love to speak again sometime.
Great, Chris. Thank you. Thanks for having me.